Oh, how nice of you to drop by. Welcome to another video. So today, well, last week I got an email from someone. I'm not sure. I tried replying, but it didn't seem to work. I think he's from China or something, East Asia. And he had a lot of questions about gypsy jazz. Wow, gypsy jazz, amazing. I haven't played gypsy jazz in months. I teach sometimes. I had a guy from Hong Kong kind of doing like boot camp, homestay, not homestay, but boot camp lessons. But yeah, it's kind of weird. I haven't been playing gypsy jazz at all for months. Maybe 3 or 4 gigs in the past 4 months or so. Otherwise, I've just been practicing this Spanish style guitar, flamenco, rumba, whatever you want to call it. But let's check out this email. I guess we'll make this into a Q&A because he asked quite a lot of questions, and it's, it would be too much effort for me to write an answer for free, first of all. I'd rather monetize it on YouTube. So please please watch this video, please share. Share, beautiful. Oh, I love the smell of share. And yeah, let's get started. Let me see if I know. Alright. Hello, I am a fan of you. And currently learning gypsy jazz guitar. I have been watching many of your videos. May I ask you a few questions? Yes, you may. It's very polite, I like it. Okay, first question. The tremolo and bending on the gypsy jazz guitar, are they the same as in rock, or is there anything special about them? Tremolo, you mean like this? So if you mean tremolo, I guess... Alright, I guess I should switch to my gypsy jazz guitar. I was waiting until today to make this video because I had lent my gypsy jazz guitar to my homestay, my boot camp student, until yesterday. He just went back to Hong Kong. Bye! Alright, let's get started. Tremolo and bending of gypsy guitars. Yeah, tremolo I think is the same. Of course, we have this. If you play the traditional way, you have this bent wrist thing, but it is the same. I guess that's how Yngwie Malmsteen and Eddie Van Halen do their tremolo too. It's kind of this arched wrist, the gypsy jazz picking. The bending on gypsy jazz guitar, in terms of the technique itself, traditionally speaking, yes, it's the same. So, the traditional rock and roll bend, generally speaking, you anchor the thumb here. And then you have this joint here. I'm assuming you guys all know this. Oh, yeah. Classic Django phrase. Whoo! Yeah. Okay, so that's how you do it. I don't do drugs. And it's a really good thing. Because imagine if I did drugs, how much crazier it would be. Okay. Yes, bending. But how you use the bend in gypsy jazz is indeed a little bit peculiar. We tend to choose the wrong note and bend it up chromatically to the correct note. So for example, if we're in the key of C, amazing, wonderful key, one of my favorite keys, better than B sharp. For example, let's say I have G, I want to play these 2 notes. This is typical. Or I want to bend to this E. Very typical. Like A7. Very typical. So yes, bends are used in this way, generally speaking. So, do we still play a rest stroke while we bend? Ah! Yeah, generally speaking, yes. I think he had another question about the right hand. Let me just see. Yeah, this thing about the right hand rest stroke and whatnot, like I said, if You guys should buy my book on Amazon. It's so good. But in the book, I explain why we do rest strokes, why we adopt the hand position that we adopt, and I've made other videos about that. So you should watch all my videos about this technique. There are tons of them on my channel over the past few years. But if you adopt the traditional position, I'm not even thinking of doing a rest stroke. It's just automatic. It just happens automatically. So this is the traditional position. I'm attacking into the strings at an angle like this. When I do a downstroke, it's harder to do a free stroke than to do a rest stroke. It's just automatic. And this is the position that many, not all, the best gypsy jazz players tend to adopt. I think Django adopted that position. Stokely Rosenberg, Angelo DeBar. It's just automatic. It's just the rest stroke. So we're not thinking, oh, I gotta do a rest stroke here. So if I do a bend, automatically it's gonna be a rest stroke just because I'm adopting that position. Now if I adopt this position, for example, see, it's not a rest stroke. I can force it to be a rest stroke, but it's a conscious effort. I do it on purpose. The other one, I don't even do it on purpose. It just happens automatically. Okay. Do we still need to use gypsy picking while playing ballad? Again, you'll have to check out my other videos, and you also have to check out my book because I don't want to repeat myself too much. The thing about this technique, about technique in general, my philosophy is technique should be at the service of music. And you should think about the sound that you want to achieve. It's not about this position or that position, whatever. Of course, adopting this position or that position will yield different results. You'll get different sounds. So for example, I play like this versus like this, or even here or here. If I pick harder, softer, you get completely different sounds, right? So I think what I did early on, kind of naturally, is I trained my ears. I listened to a lot of my favorite players, and one of my early influences besides Django were Stokely Rosenberg and Jimmy Rosenberg, and I used to spend hours watching videos of them and listening to records of them, and just kind of by ear, not doing that, but just going for something similar with the same accent, with the same intensity. And of course, then I got to meet all these players in person and see them. That was also a huge learning experience. So use your ears to decide which sound you want to use. Now, can you play gypsy jazz with this technique, like anchoring like this, the way most rock guitar players tend to play nowadays? Yeah, I even made a video about this, I think last year or 2 years ago. Yeah, I did. I think I did it in the month of May last year. Of course you can. You can play the same phrases. And obviously earlier you saw me playing with my fingers. I played gypsy style phrases, vocabulary. I think it was in the style, but I played with my fingers. And I can do the same thing with this technique, but it'll just have a different sound. So it just depends on the sound that you want. Is it okay to play minor major 7 if I only want the old school sound? Minor major 7 if you want the old school sound. Well, first of all, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by the old school sound. Like maybe Django Reinhardt from the 1930s, 1940s. So it depends how you define that. Minor major 7 over a minor chord, as far as Django is concerned, that is more typical of Django after about 1945 or so. I would say May 3rd, 1946 at 3 p.m. Django said, For example, this is one of the shapes that he used a lot later on. Let's say we're A minor. Like this. And one player who loves this sound, this world, is Raphael Faiz. You'll find it on DC Music School. Raphael Faiz. Raphael, last name Fays. He's actually my first inspiration, and I'm so happy that I got to work with him. DC Music School, if you're into this sound. So try this. I'll play an A minor and try this sound. Add notes in between, you know. try. Yeah. Try over D minor. Now try over E7. It's gonna sound a little bit wrong, quote unquote. But it's a sound that Django kind of explored, again, towards the end of the 1940s. Off the top of my head, one place where you can hear this sound is the Tchaikovsky Symphony. It has different names. It's sometimes called Tchaikovsky's Starry Nights or Tchaikovsky's Symphony No. 6. Look it up. I made a cover of it also on YouTube. You can see me play it. And at one point there's an A7 chord and Django is doing... He's using that pattern. So that's a sound that he uses. Now, is that old school sound? Well, it's old school Django for sure from the 1940s, but it's not old school Django from the 1930s. So it just depends what you want. And how you discover what you can do and what you cannot do, you know? Listen to the music. I urge you to listen to music. Everything that I know comes from listening to a lot of music, studying, spending years and years listening intently to the music that I like and figuring out things like this. But it's a good question. Play minor major if I want the old school sound. Now, if you want like more of a 1930 early jazz sound really, and you have a minor chord, I mean, there's so many things you could do, but minor 6 is usually the one. Charlie Christian uses it a lot. A lot of players used it. Now, in the 1930s, the minor major 7 sound is used, but the thing is, I don't want, when I say minor major 7 is used, but I don't want you to think of it like this, you know. Often, in the older styles of jazz, it tends to be more melodic and less about big scales or big arpeggios. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but taking fragments. So for example, Louis Armstrong, let's say you had a C minor. Louis Armstrong might play C minor 6, C minor major 7, C minor 6, and just play this. That's the melody to Stardust. So that's an early sound, not late 20s, early jazz, so to speak. So there we go, minor major 7. Very good question, very good one. When we are improvising, do we still avoid the 7th interval and use more 6th sound? Well, for example, don't play the note C when the chord is D minor. Ah ha 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 ha. Well, it depends on the sound that you want. There are no rules. For example, if you're in the key of A minor and you want to play over an A minor chord, you play, yeah, for sure, A minor 6 to get that old school sound. Right? But doesn't mean you cannot play the minor major 7. So, actually, I don't remember, you know, it doesn't really matter to be honest, but like in the 30s, this is a Django pattern that I don't remember exactly in which era how he used it, but let's say you have A minor. Ooh, beautifully out of tune. Django might play something like this. That's the minor 7. Then go to the 6 here. So that's very, very typical. Is that something that he did early on? I don't remember. But he started doing that at some point for sure in the 40s. So you can play minor 7 and then 6. But again, I don't want you to think too much in terms of theory. You have to spend a lot of time listening to the music. And then getting it to your ears. Then, of course, you can analyze it for sure. But don't think, oh, I need to play the 6 here and minor 7 here, blah, 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 blah. Just feel the music. Feel it. Feel the melodies and everything. So, for example, like a phrase like this. See, I went to the 9th, but I skipped the root on the way up. I went... But then I can do this. Right? I played the minor 7. See, I know theory, but I'm not even thinking of theory. I just playing by feel. And I have this feeling because, like I said, I worked a lot. I worked quite a lot, spending years with my guitar, listening to the music, absorbing. It didn't come overnight. Actually, here's a typical Django phrase that he played a lot in the late 40s. Here's the minor 7. You can hear that same thing. I think he does it over C minor in that Tchaikovsky solo. Did something like that. Now, from a more modern point of view, if you want kind of a more bebop-y sound, and I think Django did do this as well, but let's say over A minor to D7, you can play C major 7, which effectively makes a A minor 9 chord. Believe me, if you don't believe me. It's exactly what it does. Do the math. Spell out the chords. So if you superimpose C major over A minor, you get the minor 7 sound. And it's very typical. Give it a try. Major 7 arpeggio. But again, just playing major 7 arpeggio like this, that's not jazz. You have to have vocabulary. Here, try this phrase. That's typical jazz. B, G, E, C, B. Oh, yeah, jazz, bebop. So you can play a lot of things. You just have to know what each sound sounds like, what each interval, blah, blah, blah. Spend a lot of time listening to the music. Okay, so there. Minor 7, for example. Where is the downbeat? Is it all in the... Wait, is it the backbeat? Half note? Well, the downbeat, well, I mean, it's... depends how you define that, but 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Of course, in jazz, you tend to clap your hands on the 2 and 4, but the downbeat still means 1, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But the downbeat is 1, like the chords tend to change on beats 1 or beats 3, typically. Like minor swing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And people are clapping along, they're clapping on 2 and 4. So that tends to be where the downbeat is. Is Gypsy Samba a subgenre of Gypsy jazz? Well, in modern Gypsy jazz, in Django's time, you know, jazz was not as diverse as it is today. Meaning that you can play lots of things in Gypsy jazz nowadays. Some people play gospel in Gypsy jazz, Gypsy Samba. The thing that people call Gypsy Bossa in Gypsy jazz is not real Bossa. It's actually coming from Rumba Flamenco, which I talked about in last week's video. So, like, just depends who you're talking about. But, you know, if you play a song like... You guys know that song? A Gypsy jazz player might play like this. Which is probably not real samba. I'm not a Brazilian music expert. Actually, I have learned the samba pattern before. I guess it might be close to something like this. And I guess you could try to imitate that on the guitar with a pick, you know, Gypsy jazz. Find some kind of strumming pattern. You can invent your own strumming pattern. That's what a lot of modern Gypsy jazz players do. They invent their own rhythms. I'm not sure if I make any mistakes in English. Thanks for your help. It's okay. Your English is just fine. I understood everything. Languages are hard, man. It's there are tons of a-holes out there who mock others for little mistakes here and there. How many languages do you guys speak, man? Let's be nice to each other, right? There we go. Gypsy Jazz Beginner Q&A. That was fun. You know, I can make more videos like this at some point. But yeah, check out my Gypsy Jazz picking book. It's so cool. I'll put a link in the description. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.